The landscape is vast and crowded, and halfway through 2026, who's to say how many tools are out there that have been deployed with AI? The fact is that this can be overwhelming on deciding what you need. So today we're going to attempt to fix that. We're going to review a framework of what you need in your sales tech stack. So I'm not going to necessarily recommend specific tools, but describe what your need is so you turn your system of record and reflection into a system of action that drives your growth. So welcome to Driving Growth, the go-to-market podcast for traditional B2B businesses that are looking to build systems to create predictable revenue. In short, turning their company into a revenue factory. I'm your host, Steve Whittington, president of Roadmap, and a believer in one simple truth. Sustainable growth isn't an accident, it's engineered, and my company Roadmap is a builder of go-to-market systems. Today is a solo episode, just you and me, no guests, and I am going to leave you with something practical, a high-level architecture of the sales tech stack that every traditional B2B company needs to build a predictable revenue engine. Here's the problem that I keep running into when I sit down with revenue leaders, whether that's a VP of sales, CEOs, business owners, folks like you. I ask them a simple question. Tell me what's in your pipeline right now, or do you know how much pipeline coverage you have? And what I get back generally isn't a number, it's a story. It's like, well, we've got a few things in the works. I think Dave is close to closing on that one. We've got a few irons in the fire, that sort of stuff. That's not a pipeline. That's a hope cast, and it's a symptom of not having the appropriate tech stack to support you. So to back up though, this isn't just a technology issue. There's many reasons for this. Most of all is foundations aren't in place, anchored in a mathematical model. But when the foundations are shored up, force can start to be applied to a system. And that's where the technology stack starts to crack. And in today's selling world, it's the architecture of the sales tech stack that has to stand up. And what we see is they don't have a connected system. They have a collection of disconnected tools. Old habits now can remain. Tribal knowledge still lives in people's heads. This prevents scaling, and it's a risk because the moment one of those key people leave, so does that data, so does that legacy tribal knowledge. Today, we're going to fix that. We're going to walk you through the 5 layers of a modern B2B sales tech stack, what each layer is, why it matters, and critically, how every layer connects back to one thing, your CRM as a system of record, which then turns this entire stack into a system of action. Before I start to dive into the 5 layers of your sales tech stack, I want to be blindingly clear on one thing. Your CRM is not a contact database. It's not a fancy Rolodex. It is the operating system for your revenue team. Everything else in your tech stack, and I mean everything, has to feed data into the CRM and draw intelligence out of it, or both. If a tool doesn't connect to your CRM, it probably shouldn't be in your stack. Think about what the CRM is actually tracking. It's holding every account, every contact, every deal, every activity, every stage in your pipeline. It is the single source of truth for who are our customers, who are our prospects, and where is every opportunity right now. When your CRM is clean and current, you can answer that pipeline question in 30 seconds. When it's not, you're back to calling Dave. Now, I hear pushback on this all the time. Steve, my team doesn't use a CRM. And I get it. It's hard to actually change that culture. CRM adaptation is a real problem in traditional B2B. But here's the thing. The reason reps don't use the CRM is almost always that it's been implemented as an administrative burden rather than a tool that actually helps them sell. When the rest of your stack is connected properly, the CRM becomes less about data entry and more about visibility and deal momentum. It becomes useful, and useful tools get used. So pick your CRM, HubSpot, Salesforce, Pipedrive, whatever fits your stage and your budget, and commit to it. That's the foundation. Everything we build on top of it and around it depends on that foundation being solid. Key principle here is, if it doesn't live in the CRM, it doesn't exist for your revenue team. Hey, we'll get back to the show in just a second. Here's a shocking stat. Less than 30% of Canadian B2B companies have a documented go-to-market strategy. And if you want to know where you stand, go to roadmapagency.com and become part of the Go-to-Market Readiness Index and get yourself benchmarked across your peers. It's free, it's worth doing, and it gives you a one-on-one gap analysis on which you can define your future. Links in the show notes. Okay, now that I've made my point about the CRM pretty clearly as to why you need one, let's talk about the architecture. I want you to think about your B2B sales tech stack as 5 layers and picture this as a stack, literally one layer on top of the next, with the CRM at the base holding everything up. So with that in mind, layer 1 has to be your system of record. That's your CRM, the foundation. Layer 2 is intelligence and data, the tools that tell you who to target and what you know about them. Layer 3 is engagement and outreach, the tools your reps use to connect with your prospects. Layer 4 is productivity and enablement, the tools that make your reps more effective while they're closing deals and closing business and doing account management. Layer 5 is visibility and coaching. These are the tools that help your leaders see what's happening so they can help the reps improve. 5 layers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everything serves the first layer of the foundation, the CRM, the system of record. Let's go deeper on each now. Okay, the first layer of the foundation, that's the CRM. We've already covered the why, and I think I've beaten that into your heads. You should get that by now. It's your operating system. But let me get concrete about what it needs to do. Now, this is agnostic. It doesn't matter, again, the type of CRM, the brand of the CRM. There are certain things that are needed, and it has to do well for a traditional B2B business. So first, it needs to hold your full account and contact hierarchy. In B2B, you're not selling to a person, you're selling to an organization, and there are multiple stakeholders. Your CRM needs to reflect that structure so you can have clarity on every account and the buying committees in those accounts. Second, it needs to manage your pipeline. Every deal should have a defined stage, a close date, a dollar value, an owner. If those fields aren't filled in, it isn't a real opportunity in your pipeline. Third, and this is where most traditional B2B companies fall short, it needs to track activity. Every call, every email, every meeting, every proposal. Not because you're micromanaging, but because the activity data tells you why deals close or stall. You can't coach on data that you don't have. For instance, I worked with a client and we were working with their SDR, their sales development rep, and the SDR was complaining that they couldn't get through to the prospects. And they're like, I've reached out to them multiple times. And we learned that the highest performing SDR was doing an average of 12 touches before they advanced the deal, where the lower performing SDRs were complaining after 3 touches. We had all the data to justify what needed to be done. Now it just needed to be resourced and using modern techniques in a CRM sequenced so that that activity metric could get put in place. So you need to choose a CRM that your team will use. For most traditional B2B companies at a growth stage, HubSpot hits the sweet spot of power and usability. For enterprise complexity, a lot of folks trend towards Salesforce. But honestly, the right CRM is the one your team uses consistently. A mediocre CRM, used well, beats a more sophisticated one that's ignored. So a critical metric for you to think about is your CRM adaptation rate. If it's less than 80%, meaning 80% of your reps are not fully utilizing it and pipeline activities are not being logged, your forecast is probably fiction. You actually still have a hopecast as opposed to a real forecast. The second layer on top of your CRM, the foundation, is intelligence. How do you enrich what you have in your CRM? So before your reps make a single call or send a single email, they should know something about the company and the prospect, the person they're reaching out to. This layer includes a bunch of different tools. The first is data enrichment. Tools like ZoomInfo, Apollo, Clay that append firmographic and contact data to your CRM records, company size, revenue, industry, recent news, all those things. This is raw material that turns a cold list into a warmed target list. The second is intent data. Tools like 6sense that tell you companies are actively researching topics related to what you sell. Now, for traditional B2B, this is an emerging capability, and I'll be honest, it tends to not be that helpful and worth the investment. But the other thing you can do for further enrichment is you can layer in tools like Humanic AI that help you profile the person that you're going to be talking to and will give you understanding of how you could speak out that prospect with your defined ICP. So, all this stuff has to flow back into the CRM. So you've got this data enrichment. Now it gets into your CRM. So that's all there. You've got, say, profiling on the individual person that can flow back into CRM. And so that when your reps look at this account record, they see this enriched profile. They have more information to signal that maybe now is a good time to reach out, or this is what they should talk about. And that becomes a difference between just, dialing for dollars, so to speak, and spray and pray outreach versus targeted, insight-led sales motion. So you really have to ask yourself when you have a target account list in your CRM, do your reps know why they're calling a specific account today? Do you have further intelligence that informs your reps of things they could be talking about so it's systematic and not accidental? So this quickly spills into the next layer, engagement and outreach, how your reps connect. Now, of course, classically, your calendar, your email, your phone, all those things like regular communication has to be connected to your CRM so you can do everything out of your CRM. Or if you do it in another tool, it connects directly to your CRM. This is where the rubber meets the road, the tools your reps actually use to connect with prospects. And this has evolved enormously in the last, say, 5 years. And the core here is sales engagement platform, right? And there are specific tools like Outreach and SalesLoft or HubSpot Sales Hub that has sequences. These platforms, what they do is they let you build structured multi-touch outreach cadences, a sequence of calls, emails, and LinkedIn touch points, timed and tracked. The magic is that every touch point is logged automatically back to your CRM. There's no manual activity entry, no deals slipping through because a rep forgot to follow up because it's in a sequence and they get tasks, notifications, and they chase down the sequence. So in regards to this, one thing I want to make sure for traditional B2Bs that I want to blindingly clear here, cold calling is not dead. I don't care what various LinkedIn leaders might be saying. For businesses selling complex, high-value solutions into mid-market and enterprise accounts, the phone still matters. Your engagement tools should support a multi-touch motion, email and phone and social, not just email only. And you also want to think about LinkedIn Sales Navigator at this layer. For traditional B2B, where relationships and referrals are the lifeblood of business, LinkedIn is a great place for research and warm outreach. It lets your reps see the entire buying committee, track job changes. These are triggering events, and you can use them to engage before a cold call. The key principle to think about here in this layer with outreach tools is they amplify your rep's reach. They make your rep more efficient, more effective, and they extend it further out so they can touch more accounts at scale. And the CRM needs to capture all this stuff so you can learn from what's working and what's not working. Just as layer 3 flowed from layer 2, which flows from layer 1, layer 4, productivity enablement, how you win the deal, is about what happens next once you've got that prospect from the outreach in an active conversation. And these are the tools that the reps use to help them prepare, present, and propose. Now, what we're really talking about here is conversation intelligence platform. So there's tools like Gong and Chorus, which are market leaders here. These tools record, transcribe, and analyze sales calls, and they surface what your top performers say differently. They flag deal risk based on conversation patterns, and critically, they auto log call summaries and action items back into your CRM. So what's really going on here to break that down is the sales conversation is being recorded, it's being logged, it's being analyzed, and you're getting real-time feedback as to what you're doing that's working and what's not working. And that creates a signal to leadership and to the rep about what they need to do to adjust based on that conversation on the deal. And that is a game changer where you can get that feedback. I recently just had that feedback on a deal I was working, and my chance of closing it was down 10% from what I normally do. And gosh darn it, it is because I missed a key part in my sales conversation, and I got that immediate feedback and was able to adjust and correct course that deal trajectory. So this is the thing. This is the number one thing that this does for you. This conversational intelligence gives you coaching. And you can now, reps can do it themselves, and a leader can work with a rep and say, here's the moment in that discovery call where the prospect, you started to lose them. Or here's what you didn't uncover. You didn't uncover the critical event as to the reason why they need to work with us or why they would want to work with us. And therefore, you didn't set up and frame it in such a way around a critical event because you never uncovered it. So you get specific and observable feedback, which is better than just, hey, you need to ask better questions. It is very, very precise. The key here is that with conversational intelligence layered in, you get specific and observable feedback in real time. And that trumps in spades general feedback that we're used to. Hey, you need to ask better questions to advance a deal. Specific to that conversation about what you missed and what you could do better and how you can correct it. That is a game changer. The second tool in this layer is having a proposal or documentation automation. And what I mean here is there's tools like Pandadoc or Proposify, or even just documents or quotes in your CRM. And what you're trying to achieve here is having a system that tracks when prospects open your proposals, which sections they read, so that they're focused on, so you can learn what's important to them, and automating e-signatures so that you can have faster momentum to get things closed, strike when the iron's hot. And this often gets overlooked for traditional B2B because they say, everything is too complex and it has to be customized. Now, that may be that you need, very complex product configuration. So you need a CPQ, like a configure price quote tool, and that would belong in this layer. And that's a deeper conversation for another episode. But the output of that tool should be tracked so you can see this intelligence about what's happening. So the key insight here in this conversation intelligence layer, it's the fastest way to shorten your sales cycle and improve close rates because it shows where your deals are stalling or what people are focused on. And so you can learn what's important and what to stop doing and what to do more of and add force and remove friction from your sales process. So the last layer on this tech stack in the framework is visibility and coaching for the leaders of the revenue team. This visibility layer, it's the tools that turn all of the CRM data, the system of record, all this stuff coming into it, into insights that you can act upon. The first tool here is pipeline and revenue intelligence. And I'm not going to get into what the various platforms have because some have solid native reporting, others have AI analytics, or you have to layer in third-party tools. But what it is, here's the minimum that you need, the framework, what you have to frame up. You need pipeline view by rep, by stage, by close date, and a forecast view that shows you your weighted pipeline versus target, updated in real time, not at the end of the month, so you can see how things are progressing and you can make adjustments daily, weekly. The second thing you need is a sales dashboard. daily operating view for your frontline managers, activity by rep, conversion rates by stage, average deal velocity, win-loss breakdown. These aren't vanity metrics. They're like the leading indicators that tell you whether you're going to hit your number before it's too late to change anything. Here's the thing about traditional B2B companies. Most of them have a forecasting problem as opposed to a sales effort problem. The sales team is working hard, but leadership doesn't have the visibility into what's real and what's wishful thinking. Layer 5 solves for that when the layers below it are working. That's why the CRM as the foundation is non-negotiable. And garbage in equals garbage out. Clean data in equals real forecasts out. The revenue factory principle here is predictable growth requires predictable visibility. You can't manage what you can't measure, and you certainly can't manage what you can't see. We'll get back to the show in just a moment. Revenue leaders are under more pressure than ever. Growth from the top, utilization from the bottom. That is why we launched the Growth Table, which gives you, a revenue leader, a trusted group of peers who get it and help you work through the challenges that you're facing. Go to roadmapagency.com/the Growth Table. Link in the notes. Apply today. All right. We've gone through the framework of the 5 layers. Let's talk about how this goes wrong, because I've seen the same mistakes over and over again. Mistake number 1 tends to be buying tools before defining process. I cannot tell you how many times I've talked about a company that's bought into CRM X before they had a defined sales process. The CRM needs to reflect your process. If you don't have a process, the CRM just stores chaos more expensively. Define your stages, your ideal client profile, your sales motions, then choose the tool that fits you. Mistake number 2, too many tools. Not enough integration. The average B2B sales team has way more tools than they need. What matters isn't the number of tools, it's whether they're connected. A stack of 5 well-integrated tools beats 15 disconnected ones every single time. Always ask, does this tool talk to my CRM? If it doesn't have a native integration, think hard before you buy, because now you've got a custom API you got to pay for. Mistake number 3. Treating the CRM as an administrative task as opposed to a leadership tool. If your sales managers aren't living in the CRM every day, running their pipeline reviews, doing their coaching, tracking their reps' metrics, then you've sent a message to the whole team that the CRM doesn't matter. Leaders must model the behavior they want to see. Mistake number 4, skipping the middle layers and jumping straight to reporting. I've seen companies with beautiful dashboards built on empty pipelines. The visibility layer only works if the engagement layer is feeding it real data. You can't shortcut your way to a clean forecast. Okay, let's bring this together. The B2B sales tech stack isn't about buying the shiniest tools. It's about building a connected architecture that serves one purpose, giving your team what they need to sell and giving your leaders what they need to forecast and coach. The foundation is your CRM, a system of record for every account, contact, deal, and activity. Every layer above it, intelligence, engagements, enablement, visibility, feeds into or draws from it. That's the architecture. So before I let you go, here's 3 questions to audit your current stack. Question 1, do you have a CRM and is your team actually using it consistently? If adaptation is below 80%, that's your number 1 problem. Question 2, can your sales managers tell you the pipeline stage, dollar value, next action, and close rate for every open opportunity right now without calling anyone? So going into the CRM and seeing that. If not, you have a visibility problem that technology can solve. Question 3, are your tools connected? Does activity in your engagement platform show up automatically in your CRM? Does every proposal sent get tracked? If your team is doing manual data entry to keep things in sync, you're burning time. Or most likely, you're missing data because people will not do everything that needs to be done. If you answer no to any of these 3, you know where to start. As always, the Revenue Factory Toolkit is available at roadmapagency.com /resources. It has the frameworks, templates, and mathematical models to help you build a predictable revenue engine. Download it and get to work. I'm Steve Whittington. Thanks for listening. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, with new episodes dropping the first and third Wednesday of every month. If this was valuable, share it with a revenue leader who needs it. Keep building your revenue factory one brick at a time.